All right, how's it going, everyone? All right, I know it's been a long time. I know a lot has happened in over a year since I streamed last. I've been working on doing some Python and working on trying to figure out more stuff with stocks. So I wanted to come back mainly just for two parts. I've been doing a lot of work on GameStop. I've had some pretty great trades on that. But I noticed Aterian a couple weeks ago, and I've kind of just been lurking and watching and kind of just breaking things down. And I noticed there was a large amount of options contracts that opened up. They were like leaps, so there possibly was just somebody being bullish long term on Aterian, but I noticed it happen. I think probably about 9 days ago or 10 days ago, somebody placed a pretty large order on options, which Aterian hasn't had options in forever. So that sparked my interest. Of I know they were going to be having earnings coming up in August, so I said, you know what, let's take a look and see. And part of the Discord group that is still intact, Gamer UK. He had put together a great spreadsheet, basically tracking through Amazon, like metrics on sales, and so I started looking into what he was doing, and he thinks that Tyrion was most likely going to be based off of the low projections, and so I guess we'll dive right into it. But yesterday, in the after hours, Tyrion announced updated guidance, and it's going to be almost break even on positive or going towards positive EBITDA for the second half of the year, which is what they've been saying for the last couple months, and it they look like they're getting pretty close. So that kind of sparked my interest too. And so I'm just going to put together, just a general thing right now where Aterian is. Obviously, some of you guys know that if we go back in time, let's go back way, way back to this run right here, right? That was back in 21. Tyrion came back down. And then we had a nice little run here in May where, all of a sudden on no news, this thing just took off. And then we got up to like $7. Now the stock has gone through a 12 to 1 reverse split. So the numbers will be a little bit different from what, some of you remember. But essentially the stock ran up, no news, and then immediately sold off. And then we saw just kind of like overall, and then the company diluted twice, and so the stock has been basically just been getting hammered all the way down up until recently, where they did a reverse stock split, and then since then it's came down to basically, I mean, they were down to, I believe it was below cash value on the stock. I think the market cap on the Ethereum at one point was like 17 million, which is how much cash we have on hand. And so I said, okay, well, that seems like it's probably too low now. But there was no volume. The stock had just been getting really just beat down. It wasn't taking a whole lot. I think I saw one day it was like 10K volume on the stock. Just days ago, like in this range right here, there was like 10K volume day, 20K volume day, 15K volume day. And then all of a sudden, after they gave updated guidance and they're going to go ahead and have just one CEO, they're naming a new CFO. Now the stock has risen in the after hours and then continued into today. So wanted to get this information out there for anyone that wants, is curious about it. Obviously, Etern's got a long history. The stock was, in my opinion, manipulated pretty heavily. There was definitely some naked shorting, especially during this run right here, where the stock had a tiny float, but yet still managed to trade over 1.4 billion shares in a month on a stock that had, I believe, something like a 15 million float. And then similarly here, this run here caused another like 1.2 billion in a month. Uh, there was no possible way, in my opinion, that they were able to trade that much on a stock that had a very locked up, low liquidity float. So the stock ran up like 300%. But obviously, most of us know I was still bullish on it at the top, and I thought it had a little bit more to go. And then it sold off heavily when institutions and hedge funds exited, and then continued to get beat down, and then Aterian diluted twice into that, and so that kind of sent us into this tailspin. So this is a stock that had at one point just been up in, I think it was like in the 40s or something like that, or let me do the math on that. Maybe it was higher than that. Pull up my calculator. All right. So the high was 587 divided by 12. Yeah, it was like $48 a share. And then pre reverse split. And then had gotten kind of hammered down during this time frame, and then gapped down, and then rose up, on just incredible volume. There was not enough shares, and then got hammered down again. There was all sorts of history behind this, but let's just go into the recent, because at this point we can't change the past. So what we saw here was a $3 million volume day, which is very rare for Aterian at this point right now, because these days have been like 15K shares, and literally you could buy 10 shares at the bid or the ask and move the stock like 5 cents at a time. So very, very low liquidity or low volume here. And then at this point right here, we're actually getting some volume again. So just to point a couple things out. So if we go to dilution tracker, this will kind of give us the kind of overview on fundamentals. You can see back then there was literally, now reverse stock split adjusted, when this thing ran in 2021, I think it was. There was like literally 2 million shares now times like 20 million shares, and I think the actual float was like 18 million, and yet it managed to trade 1.4 billion in a month. And the stock had gotten diluted on a couple times up until basically now. Now that we have the reverse stock split, I can show you all these numbers and I can show you what's going on. So the company's done a really good job reducing their cash burn. At one point, their cash burn, I think it was around here, they burned through like 60 million in a quarter. Like these ones were like 30, 40, and now you almost have no cash burn for right now. And because they have redone their debt covenant, they now, I think, only need to maintain something like 6.5 million. So there's a lot more room. So the stock's a lot better, like on the balance sheet, than it was back in these days when it was like squeezing. Short interest has really dropped down. You'll see here, this one says 3.9, I believe, on Ortex. If we go here, the short interest has dropped down to like 5% on theirs. Dilution tracker uses the historical like FINRA like volume or data. So if you go back into here, I believe it's under official reports. It would have been probably this one of these ones that they're probably going off of. But either way, the short interest is very low compared to what it used to be. Like back, it doesn't even show. This is, I need to go back further, but I can't. So that's fine. But it used to be like 50% of the stock was like shorted. All right. So at this point right now, I don't think really the short squeeze. Now, the stock is low liquidity. It doesn't have a ton of like, it's hard to borrow according to like pretty much every broker I saw. And it doesn't take a lot to move. I mean, you can see the stock, I think it was up, what was it, 20% today? I think it was 20% today. Or can we see that? Let's see. 25% today, on 3 million volume. So the volume is a good thing to see, because that means there's actually things going on. When you have absolutely no volume, it's just going to get probably like sold off slowly, and they'll just be able to chip away, just selling a couple thousand shares a day, and just control the price with very little shares. Now, at this point right now, it's interesting because now we have some volume going again. We have low institutional ownership at this point, and this is where I'm curious about because when Aterian announced their news here on their PR, they went through and they said that Joe's going to step down and do another some sort of other venture. At this point, right now, Josh Feldman is gonna step in as the SVP of Finance. Or sorry, he is the SVP of Finance, but he's going to be the CFO now. And at this point, they released these adjusted EBITDA ranges. They were thinking it was going to be, I believe, uh, 2 to 1 million in loss, but now they've adjusted it to this 1 million to almost no loss. So that's a really good like first step for them to kind of reverse this and start maybe going towards profitability. And they also adjusted their net revenue to be between 23 to 26. Before that, they were saying it was going to be 20 to 23 million. So that's a positive also. They're going to be making more money, and they said it's due to the dehumidifier sales and just kind of them focusing on some new SKUs. Okay, besides that, this news came out, and now the stock is definitely starting to move. Now, my guess is there's probably some funds starting to look at Aterian again, which means that for them, they may see this as okay, maybe we can get in kind of on the ground floor at a low price. So they might be adding some shares right now, which is why the stock has obviously moved, excuse me, pretty significantly. Um, Couple interesting things to look at. We do have a gap up here at like 20 something that was left. Yeah, I think it's up here at like $20. So that was a pretty significant gap down. Um, so now we're going to start looking at where Aterian could be going because we had not had any volume throughout this entire time. You had a couple days here that were higher volume, but since then, really, there hasn't been a ton. So now that we're getting volume again, I would imagine there's probably going to be some sort of accumulation going on. Um, Let me see if I can pull up something for you guys. Let's pull up real quick. Let's pull up one of these guys. Well, where's the chart? Okay. Maybe do it this way. No, do it. That's a reaccumulation. Let's try one of these. Okay. So essentially, what happens is the stock goes down, right? You have a selling climax, a recovery, then you've got these tests right here, and at some point you hit a spring. Now, we did leave a gap over on the chart. We gapped up from 209 to like 222, I think, or 220. So there is a gap here on the daily. Let me see if I can do it this way. Hold on. So these blue ones here are support. These red ones are supposed to be resistance. I'm going to take those off real quick, though, for you guys. And we'll add a gap just to confirm it. But I'm pretty sure the gap detector will show that we did leave a gap here. Like a bull gap right there. So I'd like to see if this lines up, this accumulation cycle, where essentially closing that gap down at 209 would be the spring test, and then from there it's more smooth sailing. So what I would imagine if this was going to be accumulation where institutions are coming back into Aterian is see how we came down here, we're starting to go through. I kind of would start it from really at this point, this would make sense as the kind of down. You had this test here, and now it's coming all the way down. And now I would expect it to kind of bounce in this range here. Now, I don't think it would go down that low, but might go up here, hang out here, make a higher high. Then I would maybe see a drop at some point. We have earnings in August, so if we were to do this a little bit more within a condensed time frame, right before earnings or right after earnings, maybe the spring test would happen, and then from there we would start coming back up. And then at that point, they have price targets, I believe, on Aterian for. Let me pull up. If we go here to overview, I think they always have these analysts. Yeah, so this one was from May. He said upgraded to buy or buy from hold. These guys also upgraded it. They actually gave a price target of 967. That was revised down from 12. This one here, recommendation removed. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's more recent or not. It just says 1120, so I'm not quite sure what that is. But they had 967, and they've revised it to $12 now. So there's a pretty good amount of upside, especially when the stock is sitting here at 258. Now you have to remember, 258 at this point right now is equivalent to prior. Let's do 258 divided by 12. This is like 21 cents right now, before the split. So these are really low levels on the stock that for people who've been here for a while. So saying $12, that is not that crazy. That's essentially $1. So I don't think these numbers are crazy, especially if they start getting towards EBITDA profitability. And at the same time, like if these analysts price target here, that's a 300% move if you were to be here at the bottom. So that's a pretty significant move if they can start getting towards profitability and these funds are starting to buy down here. This is an opportunity where I think if you believe that the new management can, get the job done, there could be pretty good returns here. Not so much a short play anymore, but more a just fundamentals, like it's undervalued, it was overlooked, and at this point it could, go up. So very curious what's going to happen from here. Obviously, we'll know more in August when we can see the balance sheet. But this press release does look pretty decent that they came out with, which is basically saying that they're pretty close to EBITDA profitability. And once that happens, the next step would be aiming towards actual profitability where they don't have a cash burn anymore. What else is going on here? So, let's cover warrants real quick, just so people are aware of, like, with Dilution Tracker, the way it works is we've been sitting here at like this 8.44 million. They still have 1.94 million in warrants, but these numbers now these are all split adjusted numbers. So the stock would have to get up to $24 before these warrants here are even eligible. Same with this one here. Exercise price of 38. This one's 301. This one's 187. So if we get up into the 20s and 30s on this stock, these would be the amount of shares that could be released. But at this point right now, I think most people would be happy just seeing $12 again, not having to even deal with 24, 38, 300, or 187. Right now, they don't have an ATM active. They do have the ability to raise 8.6 million on their shelf, but this thing expires, I believe, on actually it's already expired. All right, expiration date says it already expired. So right now, They don't have a ton of offering ability. That can change if they decide to do an M&A at some point. But at this point right now, you would have to see that filed before that happened. So the company would have to refile a shelf, essentially, to do further dilution. And at this point right now, I believe the CEO already had said that at this point they're not looking then into that into the near future. So, for me, this is looking like, okay, pretty safe compared to where it was, because obviously when people were buying back here and then the company diluted twice, you know that's kind of what sent the stock into the tailspin. They needed the money, but at the same time, they just did it at weird times that I just wasn't sure I agreed with. Going forward now, I would hope they would probably find another way of doing it. I think, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they understand now that whenever you get in bed with these types of people, like High Trail and Armistice, basically you give them the power to short the stock, and I think maybe that's a lesson they've learned by now. I would hope, but yeah, I mean, at this point right now, the stock's pretty beat up, and I'm looking at it like this could be an opportunity if the company actually can go profitable again, where you're getting in kind of on the ground, and if they are able to recover and kind of find their footing, if they do have two other positive catalysts, there was they have Amazon Canada that they're looking at going into, and then was it Merchant? Give me a second. Aterian Merchant. What was it called? I'm going to butcher it because it's in Spanish, but let me just do this. I'm going to put Amazon of Mexico because that's how they were described. That's going to give me Amazon's. Here it is. Mercado Libre, maybe? I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. But basically, they're a large alternative to Amazon. And if you look here, they're publicly traded, and they are a large. Let's just say we live in Mexico, because they're like an Amazon, and Aterian is trying. I think partnered up with them, so they offer probably. Let's see if they. I don't know if I can. If dehumidifier. That looks right. So they're supposed to be adding their products into this. I can't read Spanish, so I don't recognize any of these labels yet. I don't know. Is that? Yeah, I don't know what that is. So they're supposed to be going on to this and also Amazon Canada. So that could be two possible revenue streams that they'll pick up, which will help overall because, if they pick up two new markets and they're selling like they're selling on Amazon, because, I'm not going to pull up my own Amazon because I'm anonymous, but, you know, they've actually done really well in the dehumidifier space apparently, and that's what's kind of helping them, change some of these right here, right? When they said basically it's been I listened to the conference call, and basically they said it's being aided by dehumidifier sales just because it's been so hot, and there's just been a huge demand. So that's a good thing. And there was questions. The freight rates have risen, but they had a lot of the stuff already in states, just sitting in like Amazon warehouses. So a lot of their stuff they missed out because it's more expensive to ship the larger like units like dehumidifiers than it is like trinkets or whatever on different cargo ships. So they're actually benefiting from that. So as long as they manage and don't buy into 3,000% like increased prices, like you know the strategy was before, I think if they manage it smartly, and they'll be just fine. They said that they've noticed there's a downtick recently in the last couple of weeks for shipping rates, so hopefully they can get product over from China, and their different ports in smart time frames, and then that will really help out with margins. So that's kind of where we're at right now. There's not enough for me to give you any TA right now, just because literally we had one bar so far. But once we start seeing a pattern emerge, I think we'll kind of dive a little bit more into the actual TA. I'd like to see volume sustaining, and hopefully that will happen. I know it will die down at some point, but at this point, I just wanted to point that out. And I know they. Oh, you know what I should do? I should pull up Unusual Wheels. Give me a second, because I remember they did. Oh, I could do it on Discord. Give me a second. I'll pull that over, because I did pull these earlier. Oh, another thing. It looks like they awarded the new CFO with 140K shares, and looks like same thing, 176 for the new CEO, and it looks like he's now got over 500,000 shares himself. So that's good, because he's been with the company for a long time. Okay, so we pulled up two things. So this one here, I believe, was the most. This was today's So there's more calls than puts at this point, mainly at 250. There's some at 5, and there's a little bit at 750. And then I pulled up this one, which I thought was the most interesting one. This was the large, thing placed, and I did look into this, and these were all 250 calls. And these down here, these puts, are actually bullish puts. They were sold. So meaning that this person is committing to buying these shares at 250, and they were paid a premium. So you can actually look it up yourself, but basically they're both bullish. So this person has been bullish on Aterian a couple weeks, before the press release. Being that it's in, I'm guessing, January, though, I'm pretty sure they were just trying to buy options as far out as they could, because that was the only option at that point. I think February has now opened up, but I think they bought these before February was even open. So they have like 200 something days. But at this point right now, I would expect most of these be in the money. So this would be roughly about 60 something K shares. Maybe if these probably won't get assigned if we're over 250. So they'll just collect the premiums on that. And there is another, looks like maybe 10K shares at $5. So it's not like a huge order, but it looks like somebody was bullish on it. And where's Gamer? Gamer's over here. This is the guy here. I'm giving him a shout out. Basically, he had put together the spreadsheet that was tracking down. Let me see if we can. UK Gamer. Let's see if I can find. I don't know why it's cut off like that. I guess he's just now G dot. Nope. Gamer, I'm trying to find your spreadsheet that you had. It was a while back too. All right. People are having fun today. All right. How about Gamer UK? How about Amazon? Sorry about this. Ill prepared. Okay, here we go. He's got these SKUs. So he's been tracking sales with a spreadsheet, and he said the SKU sales on Amazon US will account for 85% of total sales, and did he share it here? But he's been basically tracking because apparently on Amazon you can actually sit there and go through the number. Here it is. So he literally was like looking at sales, what the price was, and roughly what the revenue probably would be. So he was sitting here and he was like, I think he said, let me pull up Discord real quick. So he was saying that based off this, the revenue in the prior month totaled. So he said the past month was 9. He was guessing this would be about 10, and we're not even all the way through the next quarter. So he was guessing roughly that we were going to be around 19, and we weren't even finished the quarter, and their estimate for the earnings was 20. So I, that looks pretty good, especially if they finish the quarter strong with dehumidifier sales. So, anyway, I just wanted to kind of leave you with that. That's the reason why some people got really bullish, even though Aterian's chart looked awful. You know, he had been literally doing the manual effort of like tracking sales, and I want to give him a huge shout out because that I know takes a lot of effort. So, thanks, UK Gamer. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. If you want, you're more than welcome to join the Discord. Just a couple of us messing around in here. We track things. We've been following Aterian for like 3+ years. We have other channels in here too, but most people hang out in Aterian. Not recently because the stock's been kind of dead, but I'm starting to come back around. We do have some other things going on. I've been programming, which is kind of I've been working with the 2 other guys, and we've been messing around with these stock testing things, trying to figure out kind of how we can help bring better data to retail. I'm looking at adding a couple new data streams that I'm just going to pay for. That the professionals use, and hopefully from there we can build our own Python scripts, kind of like what we do. I guess I can show you guys. Let me just show you what some of these look like. Let me find, just so you can kind of see what this looks like. All right, here I can grab this. So it's not completely done, but we have one of our guys, L, has been helping me with some of the programming, and he wrote all this stuff out. Essentially, what we do is we write a command, and we are able to, get a list of some stocks that we think have potential, to go. He's identified TA patterns if it's available. It kind of gives you just some TA, like, what it could be doing at this time. And then from there, we have to do some more research and kind of weed out things. But, I actually made a nice little play on CVS. I bought it at 53. I was able to sell it at 62. That was a nice little play. I did well on Stagwell and a couple other things that have popped up on here. And these are all much safer investments than like squeeze stocks and stuff like that, that you're able to be like, okay, if the company all these companies have pretty healthy balance sheets. So that's the one nice thing that this particular program that we wrote is doing. And then, you can actually sit there and say, I want to check GME, and it'll print out a pattern. Obviously, this was back in April, so this was when it's just started going up. It hadn't even, I guess at this time, it was only, what was the price? Price was only $11 when I when I ran that. But yeah, anyway, trying to be back a little bit more. I've been working hard on trying to get all this data together and trying to, obviously help people out. I know a lot of people lost a good amount of money with Aterian, and so I kind of said once we finish our bot, if you lost money with Aterian, or hopefully you'll make some back now, but if you lost some money with Aterian, if you just sell me your orders and stuff like that, we'll let you have the bot for free for a while, based off of how much you lost. And for some people there were massive losses. For other people, it was a couple $100, but either way, we'll figure something out. But I do want to do this to try to at least help people make money in the market, and I've been trying to use it myself also. So I'm kind of a guinea pig, for some of these things. But most of the patterns that we found, and most of the things, I had a pretty successful GameStop trade. Um, I was playing some options, some call spreads, and I've done pretty well with those. I know people like Kenny and some other guys were also in on those, and they did well. So that's kind of where I've been. I've been kind of MIA for a couple like months, just kind of once GameStop took off, I was kind of mainly trading that and busy at work, and then also trying to do this other stuff with programming and trying to just get better data. But anyway, glad to be back. Normally I'd be talking to you guys, but I'm recording this at like midnight. So, all right. You guys have a great one. I will try to keep things kind of going forward a little bit more. I'll try to be on YouTube and just put some updates out. All right. Thanks.